Well, let's get to retired Army Brigadier General Anthony Tata joining us right now. General, it's good to see you this afternoon. Thanks for being here. What are your expectations for the meeting today going into this planned summit?
Well, I think what Secretary Pompeo is doing, Maria, is negotiating the terms that the United States needs to see from North Korea regarding denuclearization, but also laying a roadmap out for what remember, he talked about North Korea being on par with South Korea eventually economically. And I think that's probably the quid pro quo here, is that denuclearization leads to economic prosperity for North Korea. And I think that's a fair deal, a fair trade, ultimately, and whether it takes 5 years, 10 years, whatever, they're the same people. I've been over there. I've been in the DMZ. I've been in South Korea, and I know the families are split there, and it's the same work ethic, the same people. So there's no reason to believe that North Korea can't prosper economically, given the opportunity and the infrastructure that would be required to do so. In meantime, you've got the logistics happening that point to a meeting somewhere. I mean, logistics in the DMZ and then logistics in Singapore taking place. You have people working very hard because, you know, the summit is largely a scripted affair for the most part. And so you want to have every detail ironed out. And that's what Secretary Pompeo is doing right now, is making sure that it's worth the president's time to fly to wherever he's flying.
Sure. Do you think that Kim Jong-un would agree to completely dismantle, completely denuclearize before that meeting? I mean, you just heard David Lee Miller saying this is a long process, even if he were to agree to that.
Yeah, I think he would. I think the trade-off, we got to remember, you know, the belief is that Kim Jong-un was educated in Switzerland. He's been exposed to the West. And if you look at the history of North Korea, his grandfather and father came in with one vision, which is very typical of this hermit kingdom. The grandfather's vision was a self-reliant state. The father's vision was a powerful military. Kim Jong-un came in with two visions, one being a nuclear power, the other being an economic power. And so he may be willing to trade off the nuclear power to be an economic power. And so I think this is part of his plan to get to where, historic opportunity here to actually make North Korea a viable economic entity, as opposed to what it is today, which is a bankrupt state.
Yeah, and you think that happens pretty soon into it, once we know that these countries have agreed to certain principles? You think economic activity begins?
Well, I think there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built, and so I think that's the first thing, is that airports and ports and roads and all of that, connecting small towns to bigger cities and creating an opportunity for the North Korean people and the North Korean government. And you got to take a look at all the graft and corruption that you have there. And so it's not, I'm not saying it's an easy road to travel, but what I'm saying is it's a viable road, and one where I think there's a lot of opportunity internationally to come in and help build out North Korea, so that they can be this prosperous member of the League of Nations, so to speak.
Sure, so, viable and quite extraordinary, by the way. General, it's great to get your insights. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Maria.
We'll see you soon, sir.